Ah, yes, it is I, he who protested too much, here to talk about a certain Calvan Starling. And not his so called actions that everybody seemed to think he did but didn't, but the real fact of what he's been dealing with these admittedly creative bungholes. They sure do love to play with the calendar, don't they? They love to sit back and shave off years of my life like they're erasing a typo in a draft. 2017, they say. They whisper it. They write it down. They repeat it until they almost believe it themselves. But my mind doesn't operate in their rewritten concept. I know exactly where the anchor drops. It was 2019. I know the smell of the air. I know the room I was in. I know the weight of holding my daughter that year. You can't just reach into a man's timeline and steal 2 whole years from his fatherhood just because a shorter timeline makes your villain narrative look cleaner. What that is a deliberate, calculated erasure. It's a tactical strike to make it look like I checked out long before the system stepped in to lock me down. But 2019 is burned into my cortex. And no amount of gaslighting can scrub that ink off the page. And it matches the exact same pattern of how I became the monster in the first place. They want to talk about the anger, they want to talk about how my blood would redline, why the heat would rush to my face until the skin felt sunburnt, itching to bite back. Let's talk about the sheer, suffocating weight of the setup. Every single day, the atmosphere was already poisoned before I even opened my mouth. She would walk in radiating a sharp, jagged hostility, irritated by the traffic, the job, the weather, the world, just a walking lightning storm looking for a ground wire. And because I was there, I became the lightning rod. I was expected to sit there, absorb the external garbage she couldn't regulate, and just smile through the secondhand venom. My rage wasn't a random explosion, it was an internal circuit breaker snapping. It was the absolute desperate reflex of a man screaming internally, "Get this weight off me!" The redness of my face wasn't just anger, it was the physical pressure of constantly fighting to keep my head above her misery. And for the record, I was married to her 8 years. She's a very miserable person. But the real twist, the part that belongs in a psychological thriller, is what happened when I chose to survive instead of just lay down and die. When the house was burning, that manufactured drama, I didn't go out and destroy things. I didn't match her hostility by tearing the world apart. I turned to the one place where I had absolute agency. I sat down in front of a computer screen. I opened a keyboard and I created. That was and has always been my sanctuary. That was my rehab before I actually went into rehab. While she was drowning in external irritation, I was conducting entire universes into existence, organizing characters, mapping out series, and building a fortress of pure imagination. I took the heavy, crushing noise of that apartment and channeled it into art. And that was my ultimate crime. She didn't just hate the computer, she hated the autonomy of it. She hated that she couldn't control the words inside my head in her script. If she was trapped in a storm, I was legally obligated to drown right next to her, because I dared to use my free time to build a creative future instead of wallowing in her daily wreckage. The narrative flipped. Suddenly the novelist is the villain. The guy staring at the monitor is the monster. They can rewrite the timeline to 2017 all they want to make themselves feel better. They can pretend the anger came from somewhere. But I'm sitting in my own space now, staring at a laptop that I earned, speaking into a silver Yeti that belongs to me. The calendar says 2019. The data says I was there. And the manuscripts prove that while you were busy manufacturing a villain, I was busy becoming the god of my own universe. That's right. I am the architect. Now let the curtain rise. Oh, thought I had more, but that was the end of it. If you enjoyed, like, share, subscribe.